Just looking back at shots of favour. And favour almost got a real kickstart to his career again. Winning the prologue and doing so well during the Eneco Tour of the Benelux. Well, today he's pulled it out of the hat again. He's really back on form, is Verbrugge. Good time by Carlos Sastre. Look at this. Rick Verbrugge is 9:46. He's not going to eclipse that, but that is a very good time indeed by Carlos Sastre. Second fastest for the man from CSC. And here's Denis Menchov. This is a good time. Good time by Menchov. Well, this is good stuff. Menchov not having a great Tour de France, but recording an extremely fast time. Is he going to nip it? He is. He's taken fastest so far. Rick Verbrugge has held it for such a long time, and now Denis Menchov laying down the gauntlet to everybody else. 9:45.9. Well, we've seen absolutely, well, virtually nothing of him on the course. Oscar Sevilla coming in to clock his time. And shows how closely they are all together, over 7 kilometers. 46 fastest for Sevilla. Menchov fastest then. Then Verbrugge at 1 second only. Then Sastre at 7 seconds. Danielson at 12. Bernabeu at 15. And Santiago Botero at 18. That rounds up the top 6th. 7th is held by Christian van der Velde. Luis Perez is 8th. Angel Vicioso is 9th. And Pacavilla is 10th, 22 seconds down, the rider from Lampre. Well, this is the man we've got to watch. He said his form is coming back. He's won this event, this great Grand Tour, the third of the Grand Tours. Now, of course, it's been put back into August and September. Did start the year, but it's now at the tail end of the year. 3 times he's won this event. Equal only with the great Tony Rominger. And he's really bidding to be a 4th victor here. Well, his form in the Tour de France was really nothing less than appalling, to be honest. And even his team manager, Manolo Sainz, was saying how disappointed he was. Look at this time, Bradley McGee. Bradley McGee coming past Big Magnus Backstedt, catching him for a minute, so he's got about 1 minute and 3 seconds on him. 3rd fastest for Bradley McGee. Well, I think he was hoping to do a little bit faster than that. He wanted to go for the win. Without a shadow of a doubt, he was really giving it everything. So McGee moves to 3rd. Well, of course, it evens out the climbers from the non-climbers. This sort of short time trial. We've got a nasty little hill here. If you're a good climber, you can get up this pretty well. And also suits strong men as opposed to anything else. Here's Oscar Pereiro, Mr. Aggressive. Just look at the crowds up here, unbelievable stuff. This is only day 1, I would remind you. Well, it's marvellous to see this. It really is marvellous to see the Spanish out at this early stage. And if it's going to be anything like last year, you'll find them all over the shop in the most remote of places at the side of the road. Aitor Gonzalez, maybe it would have suited him to have a slightly longer time trial, but Gonzalez is going to work his way into the top 15, I would suggest, rather than the top 10. And maybe even outside that. 17th fastest for Aitor Gonzalez then, 10:11.5. That's not too bad. He's got to keep himself there or thereabouts until we get to the mountains, get to the Pyrenees in week 2. Three-time trials in this Vuelta. This particular one here, then one on stage 9, and then a final day. No team time trial though. Traditionally, it's opened with a team time trial. That's the last few years, and no team time trial at all in this year's Vuelta. Here comes Gilberto Simoni. This is a good time. This is a very good time by the diminutive Italian rider. Good stuff. Very, very good ride indeed. 8th fastest for Simoni over 7 kilometers. That's good stuff. He's laying down a marker already. What's his strength? Big strength is in the mountains, but that's not bad at all, is it? 10:05.1. Well, Pereiro looks like he almost came to a halt there. What's going on with this man? Well, surely he's labouring a little bit. He is Mr. Aggressive, but he looks like he's labouring to me. He looked like he'd come to almost a dead halt. Although it's very difficult to tell because the shot comes on the cut, as they say. As you cut back to somebody, you're never quite sure what's going on there. Didn't he have a fabulous Tour de France, though? Really did. Maybe it's a little bit too much of an ask to go into another big Grand Tour these days. Doing that. Well, tomorrow, stage runs to Córdoba. And staying in this particular region, Andalusia. It's a beautiful setting. If you've never been here to Granada, it's absolutely gorgeous. It really is. It's at the bottom of 3 sets of hills, and you can see over towards the southwest the Sierra Nevada mountain range. It's flanked by 2 other mountain ranges that come down and meet in a point, basically. 2 or 3 rivers coming down as well. Well, it's Ruben Plaza has caught and passed Tor Uzoft. Good time by Plaza. Uzoft not particularly worried. He's in there for the points and the sprints and individual stage victories. He's not particularly interested in taking this one. Good ride by Plaza, though. 6th fastest, 9:58.9. So number of riders now clocking just under 10 minutes for this. Remember, at the 2.3 kilometer mark, Menchov was still outside Verbrugge's time. Now Roberto Heras, 6th fastest, same time as Sastre, same time as Bradley McGee. So if he can keep it all together, obviously he's in pretty good shape. And he needs to be somewhere up towards the front just to show people how fit he is. He needs to keep himself somewhere near the front, although on a short time trial like this, it's not too much of a bother if you've lost 2 or 3 seconds, or even 10 seconds or so. Terrible luck for his teammate Joseba Belocchi, though, falling on the 2nd corner of this time trial. Not particularly badly, and he wasn't going at hugely high speed either, so that would play into his hands, but he'll be stiff tomorrow. Floyd Landis not recording a good time at all. Landis way down the field, having had a crash a couple of days ago in training. He's a bit stiff as well and looked laboured all the way around. And funnily enough, his teammate Oscar Pereiro, certainly towards the top of the Alhambra hill, looked pretty laboured himself. Well, remember, you can contact us here in the commentary box. Sean Kelly joining me in a couple of days, and myself, David Harmon, and Chris Boardman back in the studio on www.eurosport.com, and there is a forum that you can take part in. Make sure that you have registered and you've got your password. And there's a lot to be talking about in cycling, not just the Vuelta a España, of course, all the stories in L'Equipe over the last few days. Certainly high on people's agenda. We've had a message board for that. Mancebo coming in 20th. We've had a message board about those stories involving Lance Armstrong. You're more than welcome to join in the debate. There's a specific forum thread for that, or you can put your comments on this particular one here for the Vuelta. I would remind you, though, that the reason we have a registered password system is that it's a very fine line between opinion and libel, so just be careful. Be careful what you say. Opinion is fine, but don't put yourself in any trouble or any jeopardy, would you? Lively debate is fine. Well, interesting to note, if you look at the Bustegui brothers HB bike that he's riding here, Roberto Heras, you can see that the front brake is, like some of the giant bikes, reversed on the front forks. Again, every little aerodynamic aid and advantage is trying to be eked out of these bikes, if at all possible. Some people find it useful, some people find it don't. Here's Oscar Pereira. Well, He looked a bit done in earlier to me, and that's not a great time trial by him. 57th overall, 10:24.09. Well, fastest in the clubhouse, as we've said, Denis Menchov, the young Russian, who had a reasonably poor Tour de France, well, a very poor Tour de France, to be honest, but Menchov so far is the fastest, and just this man now to come to see if he can topple. No, he can't. Look, there's the time, 4th fastest already. The victory today is going to go to Denis Menchov over Rick Verbrugge, who held on to it for such a long time. And Verbrugge really back in some sort of superb form after a number of years almost in the wilderness, just lost his form for 2 or 3 years, and has come back with the Eneco Tour of the Benelux, sadly losing that on the very, very last day to Bobby Julich. Well, there's a couple of false flats on this climb up to the top of San Geronimo, coming as it does after 176 kilometers. There's some much taller hills earlier on as we ran out of Granada, of course, at well, it's at the confluence of 2 rivers and at the bottom of 3 mountain ranges, Granada, but it's been extremely lumpy today. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And now they've already head once into Córdoba for a sprint, and they've head out of Córdoba again into this Alto de San Jerónimo. It's only 530 meters, but vicious little climbing, and there's a big, big attack here has come in. It's really blown just about everybody out of the back. Angel Vicioso is the rider from Liberty Seguros on the back. He's a very fast finisher as well. He can do good things if they can get together in one group at the end. Erandonia, another man you hear a lot of in the Vuelta a España, is the Lampre rider. Didn't used to ride for Lampre. Francisco Erandonia in the blue and pink, also in that group just ahead of Vicioso. Really strung out now, trying to get back together. Well, there's some other riders coming across now. Still, Bertognoli is ploughing away at the front by himself. 17 seconds then the gap between Bertognoli and the rest of the peloton. The group is beginning to expand a little bit now, as Bertognoli still ahead. Well, that's grown, isn't it? The impetus has gone out of that little sting, that little attack that was put in by the Phonak rider. 17 seconds is the gap from Bertognoli to these guys. You can see him, he's just on the far bend on that top shot. So they're almost within sighting distance of him, but with bends like this, of course, they're never going to get close enough to do so. 19 seconds, so Bertognoli managing to eke out even more of a little lead, and I think that's probably because the impetus has gone from behind. They've decided not to chase so hard. Maybe they've decided to get a few more people back together. Oh dear, oh no, and this is what happens. Oh, that's a nasty one. He's got over the Armco barrier onto the side of the road. One of the T-Mobile riders. There's also one of the riders from Comunicated Valenciana, I think. in there as well, just over the top. No, it's a Phonak rider. Oh my goodness, I think that is I think that's Oscar Pereiro from Phonak who's gone down. Now let's see what happens here. How close have they come to the barrier? Well, let's see if the motorcycle can pick it up. Was it a touch of wheels? Was it just overshooting the corner, which is what I would suspect? Somebody's overshot somewhere, and there's a number of riders gone down. One from, that's Isadron, no, that's Baranowski from Liberty Seguros has gone down. The T-Mobile rider, I'm not at all sure who that is, and it's been obscured. Oh dear, nasty, nasty fall. There's a number of young riders as well likely to be caught up in this sort of thing. That's Andres Clear. Oh, a very experienced rider. They've got quite an experienced roster. As well, a mix of experience and new young talent. Daniele Nardello, Zabel, Clear, Andre Korf, Rolf Aldag and Oscar Sevilla are the older ones of the group. And then you've got Burkhardt, Marcus Burkhardt and Bernhard Kohl from Austria, who was on the attack earlier in the day. And Francisco Lara, although he's experienced in terms of the Volta a España, that's a very, very nasty blow. If that is Oscar Pereiro, and I think it is, for the Phonak rider who's gone down as well, that is a very bad thing for him. He had great hopes. They wanted to have a triple sort of whammy, Phonak. Santiago Botero is in good form. Floyd Landis, they hoped to do a little bit more. Didn't manage to do much yesterday. He may ride himself into form. You never know. May just be tired at the end of the season. Oscar Pereiro, I think, was the big rider down on the other side of the barriers, and we'll just have to wait and get that confirmed. And there's Vicchioso next to Aitor Osa. The back of this little group, still working hard to get up the hill. Garcia Quesada at the back. And one rider from Sonia Deval, another rider from, we've seen Erandonia from Lampre, just further up the road. Still being driven along. I think Tom Danielson's still in that group, as is Santiago Botero. This man working very hard indeed, though. Leonardo Bartognoli. And here he is at the top of the summit, the summit of Alto di San Geronimo. Check that clock at the far left-hand side there. That'll give you the time back to this chasing group. It was about 20 seconds. I think the sting's gone out of them, and I think Osa has decided to go for the points. And Osa it is, going over the top in second place. Points available for him in the mountains classification. Well, in the mountains so far, Rick Verbrugge was holding the jersey until yesterday. No longer the case now, for 10 points over the top for the man from Cofidis. 7 points for Aitor Osa, and he runs down from 5, 3, 2 and 1 at that point. And we go up to the first category climbs at the end of the week. 16 points on offer for the top man over the summit there, and 30 points for any all category climbs. Ever so hot today, really, really hot out there. 38 degrees when they went through Córdoba earlier. 38 degrees. It's never been below 35 all the way across this 189 kilometers today. This is a very good ride by Bertognoli. He's taken his chance. I have to say the other guys are just messing about a little bit behind, but they're not slacking their pace. They're just not quite sure about who's going to take up what sort of charge. Osa made his intention quite clear. He was sitting at the back and then zipped out to get the climbing points. Well, that's interesting as well. You could see in wearing number 125 a bit further on with a combined jersey on, I think it is. I think it's a combined jersey on the shoulders. Brad McGee from Française de Jeu. Like Denis Menchov taking the combined jersey title yesterday, so they still have a combined jersey in this particular race. They don't have it in the Tour de France anymore. You may remember it from many years ago, the sort of checkerboard effect on it. And Bradley McGee wearing the all-round rider's jersey because Denis Menchov was first in the competition. He's wearing the overall gold leaders jersey. Rick Verbrugge second in the competition. He's wearing the mountains classification jersey, so it then passes down to the shoulders of Brad McGee. So he's in this group as well. 21 seconds now the gap. Bertognoli doing a sterling bit of work at the front. There's no doubt about that. These guys are going to have to up their work rate if they want to catch him. They're on the downslope now. And Bertognoli is managing to hold off a sensible gap. It's not quite enough, I don't think, to stay away right till the end. It's a long way to go. I'm very pleased to say the large monitor is working again. So I have no excuse now, do I? Oh, beautiful scenery, as always in the Vuelta. I love this race. It's a race of real extremes, isn't it? It's extremely hot or extremely dusty, very arid, very lush. The mountains are huge normally. Oh dear. Problems for Garcia Quesada. Carlos Garcia Quesada is having a little bit of a, I think probably a gear change problem. And he'll soon be back with the other guys, but that's not what he wants. He's going to have to work that a little bit harder. He can descend pretty well though, Garcia Quesada. We've already seen Andres Clear though and Oscar Pereiro come on to grief, trying to catch up. It really strung out about 5 or 6 kilometers ago when the attack was launched by, first of all, by Gorka Gonzalez of Euskaltel and Bernard Cole from Team Mobile. They caught David Lafuente, who was still up the road. But it all fragmented behind them with Santiago Botero, Tom Danielson, and a number of other riders, including Bradley McGee, Angel Vecchioso, Erandonia. They all gave it a dig, and that really strung the peloton out. They formed a little group, managed to break the elastic, but they haven't managed to catch the man who went up the road away from them. Leonardo Bertognoli, the Italian rider riding for Cofidis in a Spanish race here. He's taken his chance well. They've got just under 9 kilometers to go, and they're going to have to work hard to try and bring him back. I personally think they probably can. There's going to be 2 or 3 riders who bridge that gap, I would think. But Bertognoli is doing a really, really sterling stuff. Fantastic ride. 8K to go then for the Italian. Now the rundown is not particularly difficult. It's got these long, wide, sweeping bends as they go through these wonderful wooded hillsides here off the back of the San Geronimo. 8K to go, 17 seconds. Aitor Osas. Oh, Aitor Osas had a crash as well. Oh no, Pablo Lastras. I'm very sorry about that. Lastras on the floor. Now, I wonder if Lastras got caught up in any of the chasing after everybody else. I would think he has. So in the wars already today, Pablo Lastras of Illes Balears, Andres Clear from Team Mobile in the battle as well. And I think Oscar Pereiro, we haven't had any confirmation of that, but I'm pretty certain from the square jawline that Oscar Pereiro is the other man who hit the Armco barrier and went over the top. Just look how wide these bends are. We saw this last year when we saw Roberto Heras chasing Valverde down these very, very long, sinuous Spanish roads. They may not look very difficult, but they're very fast. And once you get towards the edge, it gets very dusty indeed. It's not difficult to overrun. You can lose your line pretty quickly. And just look at them coming around the corner here. There's a lot of riders running very, very wide. If you take a wide line in, you are going to be squeezed. There's no doubt about that, because riders are going to come up on the inside. 7 to go. Still, Bertognoli is out by himself. It's a good ride by this man. He's descending pretty well. "13 seconds, though, the gap is now coming back with 7 kilometers to go. If all these guys behind can stay upright, depends who's leading them out. Vecchioso was the fastest man in the group for descending. Erandonia is pretty good. Garcia Quesada might still be off the back. He can descend as well. Botero can descend, although he's a little bit ragged. Be interested to see whether Danielson has made it into this group, and I would very much doubt it. I would think young Tom Danielson might just be biding his time a little bit. So still Bertognoli has about a 10-second gap. Leonardo Bertognoli just 7 seconds. It's Bradley McGee who's come up behind him. Brad McGee has managed to bridge the gap. Bit peaked and stung by yesterday. He really wanted to take the gold jersey yesterday. He might well do it today, you know. He is the man, the real danger man. In lying third on overall. The other man who is a danger man in that group, Tom Danielson, nowhere to be seen at the moment. So, Vicchioso was 20 seconds down on overall this morning. Bradley McGee was only 3 seconds down. He's going past Bertognoli. He's going to take him with him for company. Danielson at 12 seconds, and we're not quite sure whether he's still in this group or not. Race Radio not playing ball today, I'm afraid. Right, let's have a look back at these three guys. Aito Osa, I think it's still Santiago Botero in that group. We haven't had a really good close shot of them at all with 5k to go. 10 seconds is the gap. Bradley McGee is going to have to work very hard. This is good for him. If he's on good time trialing form, maybe he and Bertognoli can stay away. Superb time trialist, Olympic gold medalist, former world champion. Here he goes, wearing that combined riders jersey. He'll need to work hard with Bertognoli to stay away from this lot, though. Beautiful fluid style, wonderful rider. Bertognoli, as you can see, 33 seconds adrift of the lead, and you can see who's the stronger of these two. As soon as Brad McGee hits the front, there's a bike lengths gap. He's really got it, the bit between his teeth. The head is down now, and he's going for it. 4 kilometers to go, still 10 seconds gap. Well, the riders behind working very hard together. They're working well together. Unai Usa can see in there. Erandonia's in there. Angel Vicchioso is the man just coming off the front. Well, I think there's a Sonia Deval rider in there as well. Still these two guys persist out ahead. This is looking good for these two if they can stay just that little bit in command of the situation. It's no good Bertognoli waiting for Brad McGee to do most of the work. And Brad's probably going to take some bigger turns on the front with 3 kilometers to go. He hasn't got off the front again yet. Bertognoli made the gap, but he's going to have to work with him to keep that gap. You can see it visually. Here they come. Unai Usa is in front of them. He's doing the work. 197 at the back there is Joaquin Rodriguez. He is another man who could benefit today. Had a very good time trial yesterday, was one of the fastest over the top at 2.3 kilometers. And Rodriguez would like to force his way up the general classification a little bit more than he already has. And the other interesting man in that little break is Juan Antonio Flecha. You saw a small glimpse of him from behind the Fassa Bortolo rider, the Spaniard. One of my favorites, fantastic rider is Flecha. He gives it everything all the time. And Flecha just seems to get better and better. Here they come. And that gap is going to shrink to nothing. Brad McGee looking over his shoulder. He doesn't seem to be putting maximum effort into it at all, because Bertognoli is coming through to take a turn on the front, and certainly that wasn't the case about a minute or so ago. There wasn't any chance of Bertognoli staying on the rear wheel of Brad McGee. So much stronger. Well, Brad, I think, is going to have to go to the front and do the work himself if he wants to stay away at this point. He's going to have to dig in there really hard and power his way right the way to the line if he wants to take a stage victory. But then again, how much energy is he going to expend? See the gap that just drifts out just that little bit when McGee hits the front. Superb time trialist, superb pursuiter. Managed to turn himself into a very good all-round racer. He's flicked the elbow for Bertognoli to come through. And Bertognoli's coming through very slowly indeed. It's very difficult for him, I think, to live with the pace of this sort of guy. 1 kilometer to go. And it's all eased up. Brad McGee is not putting any effort in at all. Where are the other riders? They can't be more than about 10, 12 back. Well, somebody is going to have to do some real work from this group. Well, with 1 kilometre to go, Brad McGee can afford to look over his shoulder a little bit. I think 2 or 3 big pulls on the front has managed to keep him just enough ahead to take a victory today, or to at least go for a victory today. Somebody is going to have to jump out from behind if they possibly can, but still, you know, Bradley McGee is looking at Bertognoli to see what he's going to do. Is he going to come through and do any work? It's going to be a little bit more cat and mouse now. He's forcing him to go through. Wants to sit there. He's in a better position now. Well, I think he's decided he's going to have to go for it himself, as he suggested a few seconds ago. If he wants to take this victory, that's what he's going to have to do. Here he goes. And they're almost on top, and it's Juan Antonio Fletcher who's leading it in. A good trackman himself, doesn't do an awful lot of it, but Brad McGee has got the bit between his teeth. It's not even going to be a sprint. He's just going to power his way to the line unless Bertognoli can wind it up today. Brad McGee's going to have to really go for it. Bertognoli's coming alongside Juan Antonio Fletcher on the far right-hand side. There, he's catching them. He's catching them. Bertognoli comes around the front. Sat on the wheel of Brad McGee. Did as much work as he possibly could, but you can't blame him for sitting in there. He just had a little bit more sprint power. Juan Antonio Fletcher taking 3rd place. Here comes Santiago Botero. He has Garcia Quesada for company with him, and Aitor Osa as well. Well, that's a good, useful handful of seconds for Botero. Handful of seconds for Bradley McGee as well. 32 seconds back on the winner. Let's have the stopwatch on. Well, we can see who's going to come into it. It's Tor Uzov to the far right side, Eric Zabel and Alessandro Pataki, all fighting out for sprint places, of course. Rennie Hasselbacher in there as well. They're all looking for points towards the jersey, and I think in that case it was Uzov from Zabel from Pataki. But Leonardo Bertognoli, the Italian riding for Cofidis, took the win today. Went round the outside of Bradley McGee, sat in his wheel. Brad tried to force him to do some work, and he wouldn't rise to the Well, let's just have a look as we come into this final intermediate sprint today at Almodovar Campo. Thomas Ziegler going to take the points. Well, behind them, I'm sure that Bradley McGee will want to be up somewhere near the front and will have people around him to help him. These are the seconds ticking down. You can see just how much of a gap that young Thomas Ziegler has got. Well, it's certainly not completely pan flat today. There goes Bradley McGee taking the 2nd set of points. So another 2 points to him, another 4 seconds as well. It doesn't work the same way as the Tour de France. They are slightly different. You get 4 points when you win an intermediate sprint, but 6 seconds, 2 points and 4 seconds, 1 point and 2 seconds. So it's not quite the equal 6-6, 4-4, 2-2 that we see in the Tour de France. So McGee once again taking more points in seconds, so good work by him. He did his job yesterday. He wanted to take the gold leaders jersey and did so. That was his stated aim, and he'll be happy with that. Sean, what do you think he'll be going through his mind now? I mean, is he wanting to hang on to that as long as possible, or why is he now going to trying to build up points in the points competition as well?
Well, the report today in the paper, he said that he wants to hang on to it as long as possible, but he said, you know, there will be the day when it starts going uphill that I'm going to lose this jersey, because there's no way I'm going to, you know, hold it as we go into the bigger mountain stages. But he said definitely he will fight on and try and hold it for as many days as possible.
Well, 9 kilometers to go then, and this is Tor Uzov's team. Credit Agricole coming towards the front. Julian Dean, the big lead-out man for them. A New Zealand track sprinter, always willing to help out. Works a lot of the time for everybody else. Never really given much of an opportunity to shine himself, but a lot of riders are just quite happy to work for others. as you can see by Alessandro Patacchi going to Domina Vacanza next year. He's taking a whole group of riders with him, including Velo and Ongarato and so on. They're all going to Sato. They're all going with him as a package. Thomas Ziegler then, Bradley McGee taking 2 points, Juan Antonio Fletcher taking 1. So Fletcher not giving up on that points competition, is he?
No, he's not giving up in the points competition, and also the general classement, because he's a rider who can get through the medium mountain stages. So he's probably thinking of the race leader's jersey as well further down the road. So he's trying to keep up there as close as possible in the general classement.
Ziegler with under 8 kilometers to go now, but it's Alessandro Patacchi's Fassa Bortolo squad who've got one rider sandwiched between 3 or 4 Credit Agricole riders. They are working for Tor Uzoft. And at the moment it's all just a little bit everybody looking at each other, wondering who's going to come to the front and do the work. Credit Agricole are doing most of it at the moment. No Liquigas jerseys at the front at the moment, so no Zanotti or Baxted. And what will this team be doing now as well, Sean? Hasselbacher, René Hasselbacher, their nominated sprinter and team leader for this Vuelta a España, but they've got one man up the road. How do they play it back in the front of the peloton here?
Well, they've just got to sit here and wait and stay to the front, of course, in the top 30 riders, and see how long Ziegler can hang out there. And for Hasselbacher, he just stay around the big sprinters.
That was a nice shot of Rodriguez. And all that time out by himself, and now at the back. Let's just count down these seconds now then. He's got 7 kilometers to go. He's trying very hard indeed. He had a goodly lead, and still he's in excess of 16 or 17 seconds. I think it's going to be as high as 20 seconds exactly. That's not bad, is it, Sean? I mean, he's got 7 kilometers to go, but still not enough to stay away.
No, I doubt it very much, because we've seen the Credit Agricole riders were on the front there for a while, and the other riders, the Faso riders, were just staying just a little bit further back, as the Quick Step riders were doing. So we've seen them take over now on the front, and there's a lot of them up there. A number of the Credit Agricole riders have disappeared actually, and more of the Fassa Bortolo riders and the Quick Step riders coming to the front. So I think that gap of 20 seconds will come down very quickly. Again, quite a lot of straight road here as we go in towards the finish, into the last 6 or 7 kilometers now, and it's going to be really difficult for Ziegler to hold on out there.
Ziegler trying very hard indeed, but also the Sonia de Val riders coming towards the front for Ventoso, trying to do a little bit of work for him. You could see there's two or three Domina Vacanza riders in the back there as well. I'll be working for Cadmuro, but at the moment nobody's really taking it on to drag it out into a big long train at the moment. It's still a little bit all sporadic, somebody coming off the front and doing a little bit of work, and you can see the riders 3 or 4 back are almost freewheeling, so they're just going to wait till they reel in Ziegler, and then I think it's all going to fire off the front, or somebody's going to step up the pace, Sean, don't you?
Well, the question is, are the riders tired here from being out in this, really scorching sunshine all day, and it can sap the energy really from them, or are they just waiting and waiting because one rider out in front, the teams of the sprinters know that when they just turn it on for 2 or 3 Ks, that gap will come down. So that is the question. Are they, some of the riders, or maybe a lot of the riders, let's say, suffering a lot because of being out there in this warm heat for a number of hours?
Well, of course, the other question is, leading on from that, is that tomorrow's stage to Argamasilla de Alba is 230 kilometers long, and if the heat is like this in this area, the word La Mancha, Castilla-La Mancha, they really don't want to put any more effort in than they could possibly help, do they?
No, certainly not. And for the next number of days, the possibility of being very warm is, very, very high. So the riders will be sparing every ounce of energy as much as possible. Not only the riders, going for the general classmen, but the riders who are, making the sprints, the riders who have got to work. So they're going to be calculating, that very, very much so in the next number of days.
Incidentally, tomorrow's stage, 230.3 kilometres, is the longest stage of the Welter. Here we go. It's the quick-step boys have now started to wind it all up. They're going to try and blow everybody apart to get their man up the front. Also, you can see the Fassa Bortolo riders are in there as well. Interestingly, there's a couple of Bouygues Telecom riders, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Bouygues Telecom riders all the way up there as well. 2 Dominiva Kansas sandwiched in. Eric Zabel nowhere at the moment, but trying to work their way up the front are a couple of Telecom riders on the far right-hand side and the Credit Agricole riders as well. Well, the Bouygues Telecom riders, they'll be looking for Anthony Geslin to try and do something. But now look, the silver train is on the front for Alessandro Patacchi, and everybody's going to now just follow this, I think, Sean, unless we see what we did in the Giro at the beginning of the year, where they took the fight to Fassa Bortolo. There's not as much deference anymore, is there, to Fassa Bortolo?
No, well, we see they've taken it up quite late, and sometimes we see them do that in the races. They wait and they leave other teams control it, and they calculate the situation very well. And here they've done it once again, because now we're coming into the last 3 kilometres, and they've just taken up it, so they should be able to carry them all the way to the finish.
Well, a full complement of riders for Fassa Bortolo, just bearing down the road now, just dragging everybody along. Fabio Baldalto will be in there, Fletcher will be somewhere near the back, Lorenzo Bernucci, the lucky winner in Nancy in the wet in the Tour de France, Alberto Ongarato is going to Dominiva Vacanza with Patacchi, Fabio Sacchi, Pimenta, the Spanish rider, Matteo Tossato and Marco Velo. All in there, working super hard for Alessandro Patacchi. Where is Eric Zabel? That's the question. Zabel dearly would love to win this Blue Points jersey a 4th time here in the Vuelta. And there are 2 T-Mobile riders just sandwiched in between the Fassa Bortolo riders and the rest of the peloton. 1, 2, 3 of them, I think, now. Getting a little squeezed out. No sign of Tom Boonen yet. Boonen is going to have to work very hard to get up here if he wants to do something. He's miles off the pace at the moment, Sean. It's going to be very, very hard for anybody else to try and come past this lot.
Yes, and we've seen the teammates of Boonen. They were on the front there for a moment, but they've disappeared very quickly, and that's not going to help Boonen, because if he's a bit further back, he needs a teammate to move him up a number of places, get him into the top 5 or 6 here, and that is definitely, as you say, going to be difficult for him to do him now, with so much of a number of the Fassa riders on the front here.
Well, he has got Paolo Bettini in the squad with him. Bettini, a very good sprinter himself, could help to drag him up. There'll be a lot of people. Guido Trenti is in there as well, trying to work very hard. Even Rick Verbrugge, who's good at this sort of long, fast. Well, he's a time trial specialist. Well, he's a classy rider, though, Verbrugge, but you can see 2 of the T-Mobile riders in there. You often can't see who they are, because it's certainly in the scorching sunshine of Spain, you get such a bleached out shot. All the colours just tend to disappear, but I think that's Eric Zabel right there. Where is Tor Uzov? This is the question. Is he right on his shoulder? I would suspect he is.
Yes, there's 2 Credit Agricole riders there, just behind the T-Mobile rider. Looks like Zabel. So they are, they're very much to the fore, because they're in the top 10 at the moment, which is, the good position to be in for the moment as we go into the final kilometre.
And also moving up just behind Eric Zabel, you can see, I think, Paolo Bettini and a number of the quick-step boys. But still, there's enough riders at the front for Fassa Bortolo to line them out. Here is the finish. It's a left-hand turn within about the last 500 kilometres. They swing 90 degrees round a roundabout. Well, the roads are pretty wide here, but even so, this is difficult. Here they come in the last 500 metres then. Perfect lead-out situation for Alessandro Patacchi, who's going to come and try and come around the outside. You can see Tor Uzov there is waiting to be let up. Here they come. Uzov is coming out from behind Julian Dean. Eric Zabel is behind Alessandro Patacchi. Marco Velo on the front at the moment, giving it absolutely everything now. Patacchi looking behind him, over his shoulder to see who's there, and it's Eric Zabel, then Tom Bonen, then who's off? Here comes Patacchi, but Bonen's now putting the hurt on. Here he's going to come very late at him. I think Bonen may have it. Oh, Patacchi, super quick. Super quick. I thought Bonen was going to come through hard and fast, but he gave up with about 2 bike lengths to go. Eric Zabel on his right-hand shoulder just didn't have the pace, but looking much quicker than he has done recently. Pasamontes from Relax, Fortelimbrada, and Benoit Joachim, the Luxembourger from the Discovery Channel. The gap was up to 42 seconds and well down now. Fabio Baldato being sent to the front by Patacchi and said, get those guys back. This is tailor-made for us. We're inside 10 kilometers now. He wants to drag it right the way back and set it up for his team sprinter, Alessandro Patacchi. Well, Baldato, you'll notice, wears 111 on his jersey. He is in fact the team captain. He's the team leader on the road, so he knows exactly what he's doing. But they are a team that's built around the fortunes of Alessandro Patacchi. No great pretensions at climbing. They have some extremely good riders in there to help lead out Patacchi. Baldato, Bernucci, we know, won that stage in the Tour de France. Ongarato, Sacchi, Tassato and Velo are the normal lead-out train. So largely built around Alessandro Patacchi. And as we were talking about earlier, Mario Cipollini really started that idea of having a huge train to lead everything out. We don't see a lot of the cross-the-road sprinting that we used to do years and years ago. In fact, the whole nature of sprinting has completely changed. There are a lot more rules, shall we say, about where and when you can sprint and how you can conduct yourself in the closing stages of a stage. Do you miss that sort of rough and tumble?
Well, I think it's a bit more safer now, because we see years ago the sprints were quite dangerous, and the reason being, as you said, you know, the big group of riders coming up left and right all the time, right up to the, you know, the last number of 100 meters before the finish line, and that's gone with the last years because of this big train, the Patacchi train, for example, and the Cipollini train. I think it makes the sprinting more safe, and nowadays, you know, you're in a line there and you speak to some of the riders, and I have, you know, been talking to some of the riders over the past years, and they say, you know, when you're sitting there on the line, sometimes you look out and you think about attacking, but when you put your nose out of the wind, you know, your mind has changed very quickly because it's going so fast, and that's something, you know, it's totally different. As you said, the style of sprinting is totally different now, because the possibility of attack is, you know, is almost made it so difficult to get away or even to come out of the wheel, because at the rate they're going, when a team like a Fassa Bortolo is really going at the front.
I guess the question was, though, do you miss it?
Well,
it's entertaining watching them going backwards and forwards across the road.
It's something that changed after my career, so you know, I did not get a taste of it, and you know, it's something totally new in the last 10-15 years.
Interesting to see Liberty Seguros up to the front, just trying to keep their men out of trouble. Angel Vicchioso, their highest placed rider at the moment, and becomes sort of de facto leader on the road. 19 seconds at the moment, the gap, and I think Torsten Schmidt and Benoit Joachim decided enough's enough. Luis Pasamontes is going to go on by himself. So the relaxed rider getting some good exposure for his sponsor. But it's a hard ask for him to stay away. 7 kilometers to go, and let's see what the gap is that they come under. Still around about the same, 18 seconds. But now a whole host of teams coming through to do a little bit of work on the front. Credit Agricole, Sonia Deval, they're all working hard there. Interestingly, there is a relaxed man in net, just policing things, making sure things are okay. And they'll soon ease up that 18 seconds, I would imagine, Sean.
Yes, they certainly will, and you know, we see the three leaders that first they were pulling out an advantage, but you know, the number of teams came to the front, and the Lotto Davitamon team, we see a few of those riders doing quite big turns on the front, and of course, you know, they're interested in the sprint, of course, which with their sprinter, and I think you know, again we're going to see the Pasaportolo team waiting until the end, as we did yesterday. Just stay in there in the top 30 riders and then have a go, really just wind it up and go for in the last 4 or 5 kilometres.
Well, it's a totally flat 4 or 5 kilometres into the end as well. Pasamontes looking like he's beginning to suffer now, and here comes the silver and blue train of Pasaportolo to the front. Going into the 6 kilometre mark, he's lost another 3 seconds. Pasamontes will be swallowed up. He's suffering a lot now. He was churning out a big gear, trying to keep a nice smooth cadence, but not really, I think, had it in the legs. Paolo Bettini at the front. Looks like he's suffering to me, Sean.
Well, of course, Bettini is one of the riders who, you know, I think he's maybe certainly not in his best form. You know, hard to know exactly what position he's in. He's come here to, you know, to get into top shape again for the World Championships, and of course for the Classics at the end of season.
And he's doing that, of course, by helping Tom Bonan keep to the front, and that's why he was coming to the front of the peloton. But this man still churning away, and looks like he's really right on the edge now for me. Not quite overcooked it, but still looking like he's labouring a little bit, looking like he's suffering. Fairly smooth though, but the look on his face tells everything. Well, he had 15 seconds under the last kilometre, just 5 kilometres to go then, and the silver and blue train of Pasaportolo are in front. Well, when you start looking behind, you know you're just about to be eaten, don't you? 7 seconds only. Oh well, good effort by the man from Relax. He's done good service to his sponsors, and in his bright red outfit will be noticed on television all over Spain. This race is followed avidly by the Spanish. Spanish only second only to football in terms of popularity. Is that big Rick Verbrugge who's come to the front? Can't tell at this stage. One of the things you notice with these shots coming in from Spain to your living rooms, you'll notice that it's terribly difficult to distinguish colours at times, especially at a distance. The pictures get incredibly bleached out. Very white indeed. Well, one of the Bouygues Telecom riders going on a lone attack now. He's completely doomed to failure, I'm afraid. He's gone on one side of the road, and the big guys of the train are on the other side of the road, and I don't think that's going anywhere at all. Really, the pace has upped tremendously, hasn't it, Sean? And again, being strung out by Pasaportolo exactly as they did yesterday. Come under the 5 kilometre banner, then take control of the race, and they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 riders at the front.
Yes, well, it's the moment to take it up now and get the riders in position, because when you come in inside the last 5 kilometres, they've got to be, you know, really on the front, and we've seen them there, you know, 5 or 6 riders on the front, and I think we will, you know, they will try and, you know, not give it 100% for the moment and just keep it, and depending on what happens, if there's a lot of riders who move up, as we see here, it's looked like a Credit Agricole rider who just comes over the top of them, and once again they, you know, they come to the front and up the pace a bit, and that's what they will be doing right to the finishing line from now.
Just keeping the pace very high. I wonder if Credit Agricole are concerned about keeping it as high as possible as well, just feeling the pace was slackening a bit, and other riders from a little bit further down in the peloton were edging their way up towards a position where decent sprinters that are edging their way up to a position where they could do something. So a rider coming out from Credit Agricole or somebody's, Tom Bonen's team, and just trying to push it along a little bit more and keep the pace of the Fassas high, even when they want to slacken it off a little bit. And they're rotating fairly well. Another man drops off, probably Ongarato. He's usually about second or third in line. It could be Tossato or Ongarato at the moment. Remember, Marco Velo, the man who almost always ends up leading out Potaki in the very last few hundred meters. Still pushing it along, and just be interesting to see what the time gap from the front to the back is. Under 2 kilometers to go then. 3 men for Fassa Bortolo on the front. Still, we don't see any of the other sprinters near the front. They're going to sit on the coattails of Alessandro Potaki. That is the place to be. There's a T-Mobile jersey in there somewhere, and that will be Eric Zabel, who's managed to fight his way up. There's a Domenico Vacanzo. I would suggest that is Simone Cadamuro. But extremely difficult to tell who's who. This is a very, very poor picture with all the bleaching out on it, but you can still see the Fassa Bortolos on the left-hand side. Third back at the moment is Alessandro Potaki. And still waiting. Eric Zabel right, fourth back, sorry, I correct that. Eric Zabel is right behind him. Then Tom Bonen, I think, is right on his shoulder as well. Where is Tor Uzoft is the question. Big Magnus Backstead looks to be in there as well. Patrick Calcagni will be in there. Simone Cadamuro was certainly sheltering behind Alessandro Potaki. And here they come under the 1 kilometer banner. Remember, with about 350 meters to go, they swing around to the left very slightly. But it's still the lead-out train of Fassa Bortolo, and Marco Velo just has himself to lead off. Tom Bonen looking around. Well, it's Bettini who's come on, I think, is it, or is it Bonen? Bonen's looking around to where everybody is. Oh, this has gone completely awry. Totally unlike we'd have expected, and it's only Potaki out by himself. Cadamuro is in third place. Eric Zabel is in there. Bonen, I think, is completely out of it. Tor Uzoft to the far right-hand side of your screen. Then Calcagni behind him. And here goes Tom Steels on the far left-hand side as well. He's coming very quick. Tom Steels, I think it is. Has he gone too early? I would suggest he has. Tom Bonen is coming through. Tor Uzoft's going to take it. Uzoft on the far left-hand side from Tom Bonen, and Tom Steels allowed it to get away. I'm sure Potaki was just completely out of it. We'll have to see that in slow motion. I think, well, maybe Potaki came through very, very late indeed. I was looking on the far left-hand side of the screen for Tor Uzoft. Tom Steels was the man who hit the front first. He's good form, Tom Steels. But as he did in the Tour of the Benelux, he went a tad bit too early, and Potaki had to come from a long way behind. That's going to be quite close between, look, there's Potaki on the right-hand side next to Tom Steels, then Uzoft on the left-hand side. How close are these two? Who gets it? Oh, that is neck and oh, I'm not sure that I agree with Potaki there. I think that's very close. Let's have a look. Well, it is. Look at that. Potaki from Uzoft, from Zabel. Then, well, is that Calcagni? Zanotti it is, and Steels.